Do you have any affirmations that you use? Do you use
Well,
affirmations?
as an ask, does your family also have kind of that? I'm not gonna. You could call it affirmation, but like where you don't put your purse on the floor, or else,
Mm.
or
Yes, the
else
money's not gonna come.
that
Yeah.
was if you put your purse on the floor. So I never put my purse on the floor. Like, and my husband's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Put my purse on the floor. I'm going to lose my money. It's going to be taken away
Superstitions,
from
yeah.
me." Yeah. So that's kind of like a similar thing to me is like, like um I very much try to with money and I tell my husband, I'm like, don't worry about it. It's gonna be okay. Like I'm very confident in
Hmm.
what's to come. Even though if I don't have it or if it's not if like say I have to pay something for next month and I don't have it by any means, I'm really big on manifestation, but I'm also very much on like what I put out there is coming back to me. So
Hmm.
pretty much,
A manifestation.
um, but I'm very much like it's okay. I'm not going to spend the time worrying about it. I'm going to be proactive in getting,
Hmm.
needing what I need to do to get the money. And I'm not saying it's going to come out of thin air. However, I'm also not going to like stress or look at it in a negative way or think that for example right now we're getting a house. We just listed the other side of the duplex, and I understand like we are paying two mortgages. It's a big deal. Um, so my husband is a little more on the stress side of like we need to get the house. Like it's not going to get rented. Like
Mm.
it's been out a week. What's going on? I'm like, it's going to get rented. No problem. And I'm like, we're going to list it at the highest possible price that they can be at. If we need to list it a little bit lower, that's okay, but it's going to get rented. And by next month, we're going to see this income at this, at this pace. Like it's going to be okay. So a lot of self-talk goes through that. A lot of like changing that mindset to like, yes, it's coming to you rather than like, is it coming to me?
Yeah, putting it in a question.
Yeah, am I questioning it or wondering where it is? Like, no, it's gonna be there. It's coming. We're gonna
Hmm.
make it happen. Um, doing what you need to do to be proactive to make it happen, but also just yeah, not having that negative and that kind of questioning mindset towards it because I think that has always helped me and my husband too is always like, I don't know how you do it, but you get it done. Like he's like, I don't know like what it is about you, but I'm like, I'm really big on that. Like I'm just really big on getting yourself just mentally in the right headspace when it comes to money because if you don't, it's just gonna drain you. It's going
Hmm.
to completely affect your mood. It's going to affect your mental health. It's going to affect how the week goes, how the month goes, and it can affect your productivity. Rather, if you have more of like if you have more of a healthy mindset with money and more of a healthy relationship with money, uh, you're treating it more as like you're allowing it to you're welcoming it, you're allowing it to
Hmm.
come into your house and come into your space. And you're saying that you have those fortunes rather than questioning if you have those fortunes. It really, really makes a big difference. And at least it has in my experience.
Yeah, and that's like the whole point of manifestation. Like people think, oh yeah, just think about it. But it's like what you said. It's thinking about. Sorry, there's like noise outside. Hopefully nobody
You
heard that.
did.
But yeah, it's manifestation. So it's being proactive with what you're doing, not just thinking about it. Because like there's like this book, The Secret. Like there's a lot of backlash because it's like okay, yeah, think about it. But
Yeah.
people don't know that that's like just one part of it. There's
Yeah.
like I forgot about the names, but it's like you really have to put an intention behind it, and you
Yes.
gotta be proactive about it. Like you can't just like wish it. So it's like, okay, what can I do today to do this, this, and that, and it even like it will be like doing physical stuff, but also like your mindset. Like, okay, am I thinking something about money that it's influencing? Like how your husband was saying, like, or you were saying how he like stresses about like, oh, is it gonna sell or being able to rent it out? It's like okay, he in this example he would like have to like calm down and think
Uh,
about and then redirect his thought and change it to like okay,
yeah.
the house is gonna rent out by this time. I like and be like what's the word adamant
Yeah.
like
Yeah, just be confident and
Confident that it's gonna come. Yeah,
come and that it's there or that it's already
it's
there.
already there. Yes, that's key actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
The
that's
wording is everything.
yes, it really is. There's like a manifestation technique. I guess it's a technique or
Yeah,
scripting where
yeah,
you have to write down as if that event already happened. So I've been trying to do that, but I started like in the beginning of the year. But I've been
yeah,
like going down. But I need to go back to it because there's like some things where I wrote like starting the podcast, like interviewing as a woman, like all of that and like
yeah,
events. So yeah, definitely I recommend scripting. That's
yeah.
gonna something I'm gonna be. Do you have any manifestation techniques that
Oh my gosh. I have manifested my whole life. I kid you not. And honestly, I gave up, not gave up. I like put away those like thoughts of like, oh, people think it's like woo woo or it's like not real. Like honestly, I give zero F's about any of that because I know what I have lived with my life. And it also kind of ties into I grew up, my family grew up very religious, very Catholic, very Latino Catholic. I never fully aligned with the religion
yeah.
Catholic, but I did align with some of the things and, you know, believing in a greater power um, and how it brought us together and having that hope. And so I had struggled for the longest time. Come my mid, especially my mid up to my mid 20s, I'm like, okay, what do I believe in? What do I not believe in? And I think that kind of um, helped me like doing questioning that, kind of going through that kind of self work of like, okay, what do I really believe in? What am I putting my energy towards? What's my mindset like? You know, am I Catholic? Am I not Catholic? What is going on? So when I realized that, I'm like, okay, I'm definitely more religious than I'm sorry, I'm definitely more spiritual than I am religious. Is when I had this like big aha moment, like, oh my gosh, I am definitely more spiritual. Like, this is what I feel more aligned with. This is what speaks true to me. This is energetically, like, this is just what I feel in my soul and my heart. These types of practices and these types of um mindsets and beliefs, like this is what aligns more with me. So I made that shift, I would say more so in my mid 20s, I would say early mid 20s, of becoming just practicing spirituality more. And then I think it was for my 25th birthday, I did a retreat, like a women's retreat for my birthday. And that was a really, really awesome retreat. And we focused on meditation, we focused on journaling, we did some mood boards. And it was like local, it was up in Portland, I'm in Eugene, so it's just 2 hours away. I spent the weekend with these women, and the food was all vegan. And it was so delicious. And for me, it was just like a very like eye-opening experience. We also had a little photo shoot, like one of the people that put it on, she's a photographer, so she did photo shoots for us and like kind of just, you know, helping confident, helping ourselves in our own skin. And basically over the time that I evolved and just opening myself up to my spirituality practices, I have found that I found different practices, or sorry, different like habits and different manifestations and different things that I just do on a day-to-day basis or a month-to-month basis and a week-to-week basis that has helped me just feel more aligned. So, and also has helped me manifest what I have now. So one huge example was being a flight attendant because I had been wanting to do it for so long. Like it was anyone that knew me knew what is my dream life to be a flight attendant. So leading up to it, like the year prior to me getting my first interview, I had watched, I finally was like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do all this research and I'm gonna figure it out. And so I would watch YouTube videos back to back of flight attendants that were either vlogging or like how to become a flight attendant, how to do Delta interviews, how to do interviews for United, how to do interviews for American. I would follow as many flight attendants as I can possible, so I would have them basically constantly in my face, like just around me. Like, basically, are you building that? persona as if I was a flight attendant, because I would just be invested in watching and surrounding myself with all things flight attendant. And I think I had wrote in like a journal at one time too about like being a flight attendant. And so within that year, I did so much of that, like so much research and surrounding myself. And then a year later, I had got my first interview. And that was a really big deal because it was really hard to get an interview, especially at that time. It's really hard to get or to yeah, to nail down like interview because one, flight or airlines aren't were not always hiring. Like it was like kind of like a lottery system if they were hiring, and you're probably having hundreds and hundreds of people applying. And yeah, it was like very much like, oh my God, I had my first interview. And then I spent hours trying to prep for it. I went and got like a Fenty red lipstick for it. Like I made sure I got a blazer because it was all video too, like video interviews. And the first three interviews are like all video interviews. So I got like a blazer to like make sure I'm like nice, pretty,
Presentable.
yeah, like really presentable and blah blah blah. And I think in my first interview, I didn't do well. I was so nervous that I stuttered. I like didn't know the answer to the question. And the type of interview format they use, I'm already forgetting what it's called. It's like a specific format. But they like basically like it's not easy. It's pretty intense interview process. Um, but then after that, I got my second like possible interview with a different airline.
Okay.
So then after that, I think I had three. So I interviewed with Delta, American, and then a regional one. The regional one is SkyWest, and the SkyWest was the one in person. So I was able to go in person, and by the SkyWest, it was the third time, so I felt much more comfortable. And it was easier than the other ones, but I had again already practiced. Like they basically asked a lot of them asked the same questions, whether they were hard or not. They were just similar questions, so I knew. And there were a lot of like scenario based questions. So they're like, what would you do if you know if a passenger was having a heart attack, and what would you do in that scenario? Like, would you go to your flight attendant? Would you call the captain? Like, and then you want to make sure you ask the right question and not the wrong question. So we're like, and at the time, like, I don't know what I would do because I'm not a flight attendant in my head. But basically, I fully feel like I manifested my job as a flight attendant because then I did it, and then COVID. But then, after that too, like the house we live in right now, I just spoke to my husband the year before we decided we're gonna get another house. And I'm like, okay, I know I want a house that has a pool. And I know I'm gonna have a house that has a pool one day. And he's like, ha ha ha, yeah, you're right, yeah, right. And I'm like, no, I know we're gonna have a house that has a pool one day. He goes, what kind of pool? I'm like, an in-ground pool. It's gonna be really cute, and it's gonna be kind of like this Spanish style backyard. Like, it's gonna be pretty. We're gonna set it up. He's like, maybe one day, honey, maybe sort of thing. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. And then fast forward to when we're looking for a house, and by no means were we looking at a house with a pool. We were just looking for an investment home. We knew it wasn't like a forever home. But then we saw this house, and this house had like some arch hallways. Like it had it had two living rooms, beautiful space. It was definitely something that needed renovation. Like it wasn't like it was a 90s house. And but when I went inside of it, I learned with houses too, I need to see the big picture rather than like judge it by what it looks like, and more so kind of see the big picture of like the layout, because I'm like, okay, a paint goes a long way, new floors go a long way, new light fixture goes a long way. So for me, it was just like the layout. And the location was perfect. It was 5 minutes from where we already were at, and we loved this part of town. And then we went in the backyard, and we're like, oh my gosh, it has a pool, and it's in our price range. It's like a little bit of a price range, but I'm like, it has a pool and it has a hot tub. I'm like, and it's rare for Eugene too to have those. Like not rare, but like for like a general I mean, more so on the more expensive side, homes really
Mm-hmm.
need like it's not people don't really have pools here because one, it rains the majority of the time of the year, uh,
Mm.
and it's maintenance. But also we were on the hills, and I was like, oh my God, this is definitely. I'm like, honey, we need to get this house. Like, we're gonna get this house. And at the same time, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be get my heart set up, if it's not gonna end up, but I'm like, I think we're gonna get this house. Um, but yeah, I'm like, honey, I fully manifested that. Like, fully manifested all of
Yeah,
that.
and literally like how when you were giving these two examples, like the whole point of to do manifestation is that you got to be really really clear on what you want. Like be as specific as possible, and that's what you did. You say I want this type of pool, blah 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 blah, blah. And then the flight attendant I want this type of job, blah blah blah. So
Yep,
you really got to be specific. And then the second is like immerse yourself. So you did your whole research on flight attendants, how to get a job, interviews, all of that. And the same thing with the house. So it's really and then being proactive too. Of like, okay, I need to go. Obviously, I'm not a house is not gonna come to me, so I gotta go and do my
exactly.
research and all of that. So it's a lot of factors that go into manifestation. But at the end of the day, you really gotta align to like what you want to manifest. So that's really
Yeah,
really important.
yeah, that clarity, that having the specifics, and like you said, immersing yourself. I think that's a really, really big one because again, it doesn't just come from thin air. We're not talking about like, oh, we
Mm-hmm.
appear out of nowhere. There is some work to manifestation. Like it's a give and take thing. It's not just a take thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely you want to put your efforts out there too. So.
Yeah, that's so true.